Sexual Selection in the 21st Century, an analysis of incels. Finding a partner or entering a relationship is a normal aspect of life for the majority of people around the world. In modern days, we can see youth and teenagers begin to experience dating and living relationships full of experiences. However, finding these relationships and having these experiences may not be as easy as it seems for a marginalized group of men known as involuntary celibates or incels. The core belief that is shared among incels is the lack of relationships and sex despite their best efforts in trying for romantic relationships. The media widely portrays incels as a group of lonely, desperate, misogynistic, and angry men. There is little to no support for incels in this regard, due to the negative stereotypes mentioned above, as well as the attached violent sprees of some others who identified as being part of the incel community, such as Elliot Rodger, Alice Massey, and to name a few. With that intensity aside, it's important to note that there's many different incel communities of online forums. Not all incel communities share the same extreme views. There are incel communities that reject these people as being incels. It's a common occurrence to see that many incels communities do not allow females, or as they may call them, foids, on their forums. However, some do make exceptions to allow foids or feminoids, which means female organisms, to post in the blue pill section. Blue pill means beliefs that imply that people are different and they match based on their personalities, and where personalities can redeem genetic flaws if you are respectful to women. Some communities do not allow women because they believe that women cannot understand the incel problems and that women are a distraction for sexually frustrated men. Others allow women for other reasons, such as it becomes difficult to screen out women. Some enjoy talking to women online, and it can create a dialogue between men and women. Other forums may allow females to post throughout the forum, so there is a lot of variety with different incel communities. Another term to note is the red pill, suggesting that there's naturally predetermined law that women are attracted to the most alpha male, the most aggressive, dominant, strong, influential, wealthy, powerful, and that genetic flaws can be compensated by becoming more alpha. And then lastly is the black pill, which a majority of incels tend to believe that they are genetically inferior and that women are only attracted to men who have superior genes and physical features. In this paper, we will take an analytical look at incels, their struggles in finding romantic partners, and ways to address the incel situation. So how did these men come so far and kind of stray away? It's fair to say that the majority of incels have experienced a life of trauma to some degree. The majority of incels have expressed being bullied at school in a variety of different forms. Furthermore, a vast majority have admitted to having social anxiety and other mental health concerns, which may include autism, bipolar, and schizophrenia with paranoid thoughts about women. Other issues that may contribute to inceldom are lack of educational opportunities, job security, and economics, as well as a lot of social issues. Women look for attributes when selecting a male partner, such as education, intelligence, and income, with the ability to provide for a family, or as incels may call this, a high-status male. With a lack of education and job security, it makes some of these attributes challenging to adhere to. It's more socially acceptable for a female to be out of work and taking care of a family or being a homemaker, but a male without a job is highly looked down upon. According to the Mental Health Commission of Canada, bullying can lead to depression, anxiety, hopelessness, poor self esteem, loneliness, isolation, fear, frustration, and trauma, as well as suicide. Furthermore, 1 in 3 Canadian youth have been bullied, and 40% have reported being cyberbullied. Bullying is a significant cause as it causes people to isolate and form issues with trust, which could impact the ability to form a relationship in the future. Furthermore, isolation causes people not to be accepted. In some ways, the constant rejection that a lot of incels have endured can be similar to that of bullying, especially if it was a difficult rejection where it was linked to bullying where they were laughed at or made fun of, which many incels have reported experiencing. Many incels feel isolated, unheard, alone, and feel like they're not accepted. Even Elliot Rodger, in many of his YouTube videos, cites, "I cannot enjoy life. I have been an outcast. No one accepts me." The majority of people do not understand how these behaviors or feelings relates to sexual frustration. I think it's a lot more than just sexual frustration. The part that's often missed is that incels are stating that they just want a normal life, including love, affection, companionship, sharing romance, intimacy, and feelings, as well as being accepted. Without human emotional connections and physical contact, they feel alone, unworthy, rejected, and often suicidal. When interviewing incels, many of them were suicidal and voiced suicidal ideations, thoughts, and even self-harm such as cutting, which was quite common with incels, something that is so rare in the general population of males. This leads me to believe that incels are in a psychological crisis. Some are suicidal, frustrated, disgruntled, and have lost hope in the future, making the most possible unthinkable things happen as a result of a psychiatric emergency. Often portrayed as violent, misogynistic men that hate women, if we peel back the layers to the onion, so to speak, we find that there's a lot of trauma, hurt, pain, rejection, feeling alone, isolated, without any real supports. The truth of the matter is, these men are not actually violent. They're hurt, and no one's listening to this hurt. A history of trauma and negative experiences with women is a factor in incels being unable to enter a relationship. Many incels believe that they were not born with this hate, but instead have developed it after experiencing hate from females. Ingrained into the incel subculture is the black pill, which mainly believes dating is about looks and genetics, whereas the red pill is more about self-development and advances in self-improvements, where women will go to the most alpha male, that's most dominant, active, influential, wealthy, and powerful, and who has status, and that their genetics can be redeemed. Darwin's sexual selection theory suggests that females can be more choosy with mates that they select, and that males are more competitive. This is because women have a certain amount of reproductive eggs and years to produce, whereas men have a much longer span. Pregnancy and raising an infant also invests much of the female's resources and time. Thus, she's going to be more selective and more choosy when finding a mate. Male competition is a little bit more clear. Female selection is a lot more confusing. However, incels have their own theories about what makes someone desirable. They believe that 80% of women go for the top 20% of the highest and most genetically superior males. These genetically superior males are referred to as a Chad. Darwin stated that female preference is not necessarily dependent on looks, but rather selective factors such as if a female only mates on a particular tree, then there will be rejection of any male who is not on that tree. Other issues are societal issues and just dating in general. Something to mention is that dating for men is often cashed in on by a lot of organizations. For example, on dating websites, men often have to pay premiums for their profiles to be on the dating site, to view their messages or their matches, or even if they would like to enter a club. Whereas females get free entrance to clubs, and they're not usually charged for dating apps. Socially, men are expected to do majority, if not all, of the approaching when trying to enter a relationship. This is a big factor that also conflicts with feminism. Part of feminism is not harassing or sexualizing women. But how do you ask out a female as a guy when approaching women is also shamed upon and can be considered harassment? A much larger issue is that a lot of incels have autism or mental health diagnoses, which can make social situations extremely difficult. On top of that, they may not have developed socially acceptable social skills, and they might say something that's socially incorrect or perhaps act in a different way that may come off as wrong. A lot of times these men are viewed as being creepy when they have no ill intentions. This leads to a lot of these guys being interviewed by the police, or in some cases even arrested for things that were really just a misunderstanding. In reality, um, men do not have the same social supports as women. Women don't have to go to school or work if they don't want to. No one cares if a woman is a stay-at-home homemaker because that's socially accepted for women not to go to work or to go to school. However, if a male doesn't go to school or work, that's highly looked down on in our society. Furthermore, if a male is in a female-dominated role, they're looked down on, whereas women in a male-dominated role are viewed as strong, independent women. If a woman marries up, that's totally fine and socially accepted, and in a lot of cases, even expected. Most women do marry up, and no one really cares. However, if a woman marries down, she's told, he's taking advantage of you, he's using you, you could do better. If a woman is a single mother, she's strong and independent and will receive a lot of help from the community. But a single father receives very little social support from the community. Women have a lot more social support because a lot of women's life choices don't actually matter. In terms of the solutions to inceldom, there's no universal solution, as these men are very unique cases. However, improvements can be made that can potentially lead to solutions in the future. Some of these would include addressing the underlying and untreated mental health, as where the situational mental health is caused due to the stress from a lack of a relationship. Incels tend to isolate themselves and remove themselves from society. Which may be an attempt to remove themselves from potential pain. However, isolation only furthers mental health consequences. A solution needs to find a way to bring out incels into the community and back into society. Perhaps, for some, a comprehensive, community assertive ACT team would be beneficial to help meet the social needs of some of these men through housing, financial assistance, recreation, therapy, and ways to reduce the social detriments of health. A counselor can provide therapeutic support from an anti-oppressive framework by assisting in finding individual solutions, coping strategies, looking for the exceptions, life improvements, working on goals, and self-development, as well as changing negative views. In addition, a recreation therapist can assist with things such as social skills, self-esteem, friendship development, community reintegration, and exploring recreation activities of interest. One of the biggest challenges with incels is that a lot of the help is often rejected. Profoundly ingrained into the incel subculture is the black pill, which is based in giving up hope, because women will only be attracted to the most superior genetics. The black pill causes an obsession with being hopeless and believing that there's no help available, which makes helping a challenge for those people who are trying to help. Similarly, it is unclear what medication or treatment compliance that incels would have. Solutions also need to take into consideration the disadvantage that many incels have and provide some grants for school and post-secondary education, as well as increasing the Ontario Disability Pension to accommodate adequate living standards for single people with disabilities. We should look at raising the minimum wage and creating more job opportunities locally to ensure that we have enough jobs for those who are willing and able to work. On the other hand, for those who may be unable to work full-time due to disability, including mental health, there should be more opportunities where working part-time while still receiving financial assistance from the government is still accepted. Cutting government financial assistance in the event that someone is working can have an adverse effect and make people not want to work at all, which actually causes more isolation. To avoid isolation and reintegration, it's more beneficial to encourage incels to work as much as they can and as much as what they can tolerate while still being eligible for assistance without receiving any consequences. As for the educational system, bullying must be taken more seriously and have a lot more consequences for kids who bully others. The more alone, unworthy, and not validated they feel, the more it'll lead to negative self-talk and the need to vent on incel forums. Incel forums can be a little bit tricky. They have positive outcomes, allowing these men to vent, communicate, and talk to other like-minded men who understand them through similar experiences of the romantic struggles. Often they validate each other and they can even encourage each other. The problem arises with forums when extremists can take things a little bit too far, and the forums can end up being a dumping ground for advocating for rape, pedophilia, and violence, which is not necessarily entrenched in incel beliefs, but it can be encouraged when the space becomes toxic. The ideal solution is for incel forums to start being a little bit more modernized by still providing support for incels, encouragement, and acceptance for incels by also reducing violence and making the space non-toxic. Some incel forums have non-violence policies and are gender neutral. Furthermore, by reducing these toxic and negative stereotypes, it creates a more positive image for incels. Additionally, the province needs to consider the laws and regulations around sex workers. Currently, sex work is legal as long as the services are not advertised in public spaces. However, it's only decriminalized for selling services and not buying the services. It would be beneficial to decriminalize buying sexual services so that men who are buying these services appropriately do not fear legal consequences, in making the legal system more fair towards men who could currently face jail time for buying these services. Decriminalizing and reducing the stigma for both men and women who are working in these fields. It can also help to reduce some sexual tension and provide a better and a safer environment for all of those who are involved. More importantly, we need to address the societal standard of men being expected to do much of the approaching and then being shamed for it. There needs to be more awareness and understanding towards the fact that men with less developed social skills are not trying to harm people. In addition, police need more training and discretion when proceeding with these types of calls. Similarly to women's campaigns about all women being beautiful, we should consider doing the same thing but for men, of all shapes and sizes, races, and different backgrounds, to highlight men's strengths as well. Dating apps and sites should not be profiting off of people's struggles and should find other ways of advertising to bring in revenue rather than charging people, particularly men, for viewing their matches or their messages. Especially when a lot of incels have reported receiving no messages from these dating sites but are still having to pay for a profile. Furthermore, male sexuality is looked at as being wrong in many ways, and they're told to suppress their sexual or romantic feelings, which it kind of adds to a lot of the sexual frustration that a lot of incels have. In conclusion, there's different types of incel communities. Some are darker than others, and then some are more gender neutral. Well, the media has can't talk today. Primarily portrayed incels as being violent, misogynistic, sexist, and rape promoting. They aren't, and not all communities are the same. There's a lot of different incel communities, and there's a lot of incels who are very down to earth. There are incel communities that are trying to promote a better image for themselves, and they don't condone violence. The media primarily focuses on incels who have had psychiatric emergencies, like Elliot Rodger and Alex Mathiam, who are both receiving mental health services at the time. Incels behave the way they do because of trauma and negative past experiences with women. The majority of incels have been a victim of bullying in school. Mental health and autism are also very common factors as well. Bullying has a lot of negative effects, and a lot of times rejection can have the same effects, and the rejection can be tied into bullying in a lot of ways. Incels just want to have a normal life, which includes love, affection, companionship, sharing romantic feelings, intimacy, and just being loved. In addition, they want to feel socially accepted. Other issues that may contribute to inceldom are lack of education opportunities, job security, and economics. As these are some of the qualities that women are looking for, so lacking in these areas can really cause men to struggle. Without the ability to form a relationship, it can cause feelings of loneliness, feeling alone, abandonment, rejection, and feeling like they're an outcast, which leads to a lot of hopelessness and ultimately the black pill. Solutions to inceldom are unique to the individual, but they're also a societal phenomenon. And it can be related to a lot of underlying mental health or situational based mental health from the stress of not having a relationship and from the trauma of the rejection. For some incels, an ACT team would be beneficial. Quality of life improvements can be made by providing grants and incentives for post-secondary education, increases to the Ontario Disability Plan, as well as legalizing sex works. In addition, we need to address the shaming of male sexuality, which can lead to confusion and sexual frustration when men are expected to approach and to court females, but at the same time not be able to express sexual interest or harass them, when anything can really be considered harassment. Likewise, awareness about autism and mental health and how social skills affect dating would be helpful. There's a lot of support for children with autism, but these children with autism become adults. There needs to be more awareness and education around adults with autism. A lot of misunderstandings can happen, especially with the law, due to a disability that can't really be seen. Furthermore, it's not ethical to cash in on struggles of men by charging them to access or send messages to women on dating sites when women can access them for free. Incels are not violent men. They're hurt men who are frustrated with not being heard, accepted, or for being accepted for who they are as people. A lot of these men feel like they're disposable and not valued. Incels just want to be valued, heard, and to feel like normal people with the same experiences of having loving relationships, companions, and being able to share emotional feelings with someone as the same as any other female would want and need.